Today, this is Mrs. Kent, Whiteman Elementary librarian, and I am being joined today with astronomer and author Jeffrey Bennett. So today he's going to be sharing with us some things that he has done over the course of his career to lead him to where he is now. If you are interested in purchasing some of his books, you can go to jeffreybennett.com to access all of that information. And you can also visit Storytime from Space, and there you can hear his books being read by astronauts in space, and you can see them floating around in the background. It's really neat. So many of our students have been able to see that when they are doing the library lessons from last week, and I know the kids really enjoyed it. So if you did not get a chance to check it out, I definitely encourage you to do that so that you kind of know all that Jeffrey Bennett is about. And Mr. Bennett, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about your journey in becoming a children's author.
Hi. So thank you very much for having me here at your school virtually. You can see I'm in a pretty cool place in my virtual background here. I assume you can all see that fine. So I'm on this planet here that is on the outskirts of the Milky Way galaxy. You can probably see here that there's our galaxy in the background, and I think part of the journey to becoming an author of any type, or becoming a scientist, or maybe becoming anything, is to have your imagination. And that's why I picked this background to show you today. Because as you're growing up, you want to always be keeping your imagination, thinking about all the amazing things that might happen out there that you would like to be a part of, and then figure out a way to make that happen. In my case, when I was the age that some of you are now, the Apollo astronauts were landing on the moon. And I thought that was such an amazing thing. And I thought, wow, I would like to go to the moon someday and to understand more about that. So I focused on science, and I got my PhD in astronomy, and I started teaching lots of classes for college students. And along the way, I got the opportunity to write the children's books also. And that's kind of how it came to be. Oh, very good question, Gracie. Thank you. So I already mentioned that I got very inspired by the Apollo missions. And in addition to that, I was very interested, I think as everybody is, in trying to understand, when we look up in the sky, what is it that we're seeing out there with the stars and the planets and the sun? But I also was always curious about looking up at the stars, and I think that's something that all humans are curious about. You look up in the sky and say, what are those things? The stars, the planets, the sun, the moon. How did they get there? What do they mean to us? And that's why, we have nursery rhyme songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And we're always curious. And I've been very lucky to be in a position where not only everybody can stay curious throughout their lives, but I get to do it as my job to stay curious and keep learning about science and astronomy and what all these things are. Oh, thank you for that question, Mia. And well, I think you're all authors already. Maybe in kindergarten you haven't written a book yet, but I bet everybody else has, right? Because that's probably something you do. You get to write your own books. So you're all authors already. I got to be an author, professional author, originally because I was teaching college classes, and I got my notes turned into what we call textbooks for college students. And then I wanted to write for kids too, because I wanted you to be, basically, I want you all to be as excited about space and science as I am. And so that's why I decided to write books for kids. Oh, that's an excellent question. So, it depends on the books, but for the kids' books, where I have a story that I'm writing, my books for grown-ups and for college students are completely nonfiction, right? So I just have to think about how I would explain things to people and then work from that. But for the stories for the kids, the books that you've probably seen, there I need to come up with an idea for the story. And that's actually pretty hard. Sometimes it takes me a long time to come up with something. In fact, I first wanted to write kids' books about 20 years before I actually did. And that was because I was lacking the inspiration. And I got the inspiration one day when I was out with my dog, Max. You might have guessed that. And we looked up in the sky and we saw the moon, and I was with my little baby son at the time. And I just thought, hey, maybe I should tell him a story about Max going to the moon. And that was where the inspiration came from, just sort of the combination of being out there with my baby and my dog and the moon in the sky. It all came together. So you never know where inspiration is going to hit.
I love that. I love that you use experiences from your own personal life with the background knowledge that you had gained from all your years of study to kind of jumpstart the beginning of your Max series. I know that was a huge favorite of many of the students. And you kind of already answered this a little bit, but if you want to kind of fill people in on what the writing process looks like for you when you start writing books.
Well, the writing process, you have to get your idea and you have to think of how you're going to want to make it all come together. Now, in my case, I have that story idea, but then I also have all the science ideas that I want to teach through this book. So I try to take that story idea and the science ideas and make them work together. You know how in my books on each page, there's the story and then there's the science. Well, that is the hardest part of the writing. The first draft's usually the easiest. It's doing the improvements. And so you have to really be able to look at what you've written and say, will other people hear it the way I meant for them to hear it? And if not, you have to say, what can I change that will make it clearer? And that's why it usually takes me like 25 drafts before I get it all the way to where I feel like, yes, it's going to work the correct way for other people.
Right, 25. I want a lot of kids to really let that sink in. 25 times to go back and revise and make changes. So I think it's clear never to give up, that, even someone clearly as well educated and smart as you are, Mr. Bennett, still there's a draft process. You don't just whip out your best work on the first try. So thank you for that. Another question we had, just for fun, what is your favorite book that you have written out of all of your books?
Oh, that's a hard question, because when you're the author, the books have different meanings to you. So, right now, if you ask me my favorite, I'd probably tell you the most recent one, because it's the most in my mind. So that's my book, I, Humanity. But of course, Max was a very special dog, so I always think about him when I go back and I'm reading those books with kids. So yeah, as an author, it's hard to pick. And of course, I'm trying to teach certain science concepts each time. So it depends on which science concepts I want to get across to whoever I'm talking with at a particular moment. The virtual background that you're seeing here on my screen is out of I, Humanity. It's out of that book.
Oh, very good. I haven't had a chance to read that one yet. I read a lot of the Max ones, so I'll have to check that one out. And then another question we had from Micah in 3rd grade. He wanted to know, are you going to write any more Max books, or just in general, what is the next book you plan to write?
Oh, that's a very good question. Thank you. So, I haven't decided yet whether I'll write any more Max books. I'm interested in it. I'd love to send them to Saturn because we learned so much about Saturn from the Cassini mission that was orbiting Saturn from 2004 till 2017. So I'd love to be able to teach the science of Saturn with Max in a book like that. But at the moment, I'm not doing that. At the moment, I'm working on a project for middle school kids, which some of you might be interested in right now. It's posted online for free. It's called grade8science.com. So just go to grade8science.com, grade 8science.com, and you can see the middle school curriculum.
What was your favorite subject to learn about in school when you were an elementary student?
I liked pretty much everything in school. I always was drawn, especially to math and science. But I loved everything. I loved music and art and writing and history, and I remember doing some fun geography projects. Yes, I think it's important to be curious and interested in all the subjects because they all kind of tie together. You might, for example, you might think astronomy with the stars doesn't have that much to do with our everyday lives, but it actually does, because it makes us think about who we are as human beings. And as an astronomer, if I didn't know how to write and I didn't know how to enjoy music, I'd be missing out on a lot. So you have to focus on all of your subjects together.
Excellent. And the last question we have is, what advice would you give to anyone that's interested in becoming their own author?
I think if you want to become an author, the most important thing to remember is you need something to write about. So you can't really actually go out there and say, I'm going to be an author. You have to go out there and say, I'm going to be this something that learns about some topic, whether it's history or astronomy or art or many other things. And then you say, okay, now I'm going to be an author who writes about this subject that I've learned a lot about. So always think first about the things you want to learn and understand, and then later think about how you can write about them for other people.
Excellent, excellent. And just to kind of wrap up, everybody, I wanted to share with you, make sure you don't forget to visit Jeffrey Bennett's website, jeffreybennett.com, if you would like to have a chance to check out more of his books and learn more about him, as well as the website Storytime from Space, where you can actually hear his books being read. And I want to give a huge thank you to Mr. Bennett for coming and talking with us. And I apologize for our technical errors and some of our little glitches along the way. You've been a phenomenal guest, and just thank you again for coming on with us.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody out there. I know it's hard to do this online learning instead of being in school, and I'm really proud of you all for how great a job you're doing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.